Andy Robertson is signing for Spurs. Okay, that was one of the most random David Ornstein bombers I think we've ever seen this morning. It's, yeah, strange. Andy Robertson is signing for Tottenham. In this video, we're going to break down the positives and the negatives to that signing. I think the reaction to it has genuinely been more positive than negative, although I think there are Spurs fans that are right to be concerned, or their concerns that they do have around this transfer are correct in many ways. For Liverpool, I think this makes absolutely no sense why they'd give up another bit of defensive depth without going and signing another defender. Maybe they're going to recall Simicaz. Who cares about Liverpool? This is about Tottenham in this video. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support recently has been absolutely immense. Make sure to like the video as well. Make sure to let me know, most importantly, your thoughts in the comments on this deal. Get them down there. Also, make sure to go and watch the last video on my channel that I uploaded this morning as well. It's the full segment of me talking on the overlap fan debate yesterday, all things Tottenham. And again, your support on this channel means that I can do things like that, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. So thank you. Make sure to go and watch that and show some love in the comments as well on the actual long form vid as well, because that massively helps. So thanks, guys. It would have been great to actually chat to Jamie Carragher about this yesterday. But alas, David Ornstein has decided to drop the bomber today that Spurs are working on a deal to sign Andy Robertson from Liverpool. Tottenham have brought forward their plan to vie for the 31-year-old who is out of contract in the summer as a free agent. It's not done yet, but talks between all parties advancing in a bid to reach an agreement. Now, there are many positives to this. There are many valid concerns about this transfer as well and what it says about our strategy. I think that is the biggest concern rather than talking about Andy Robertson as a player, because I think in many ways and on face value, it kind of makes sense, right? Ben Davies has got a bad injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Obviously, he was having to be used as cover in recent games until Doggy came back. I think Spurs look so much better with a natural left-back that can overlap, and that's something we know that Robertson can do. He's got quality in the final third in terms of his crossing, which is something that Doggy does massively lack. I think Doggy at times struggles to kind of almost kick the ball off the floor when he's trying to loft it in. Has Robertson got the energy to still get up and down in the same way he was? Obviously, there's been a physical decline in his game that's led Liverpool to go and sign Milos Kerkez last season, and obviously Robertson is still featured this season. He's made 4 starts in the Prem, 13 matches. I was chatting to Liverpool fan George Scaife this morning, who you guys will know. Make sure to go and follow his channel, who said that actually 3 of Liverpool's better performances this season have come when Robertson started. 2 in the Champions League, Real Madrid and Aston Villa, and Aston Villa in the league, Real Madrid and Inter Milan in the Champions League. And I think he's been better for them when he's filled in this season than when he played last season. When he started, if we look at the stats from last season, he played in 33 Premier League games, 8 Champions League games, 4 AFL Cup games. If we can look at the stats from when from last season, I don't know if we can get the starts from last season on FOTMob, annoyingly. But still featured in 45 games. There were times where I think Simicaz kind of came in to fill in for him, and that was definitely a kind of conversation and talking point. There was times where he kind of got caught sleeping at the back post. And yeah, obviously just a natural kind of decline from a left-back who is one of the best left-backs we've ever seen in the Premier League. In Klopp's kind of peak years at Liverpool, his ability to get up and down the flank and deliver balls into the box is something that we would absolutely love now, and something that Thomas Frank would absolutely love in terms of the way that he plays and loves to overload the flanks and get crosses into the box. So I think with if you can get Robertson into the final third, I don't think he's not lost that kind of crossing ability necessarily. We'll kind of come on and talk about him in the team shortly. But the other positives to this are his leadership, the intangibles, similar to Gallagher. His leadership, his character around the group as well. I think Tottenham do need that with the situation that we're in right now. Let's be honest and let's be frank about it. We could be in a relegation battle if we don't beat Burnley at the weekend. And I think having someone like him who's got that winning mentality and experience, I know it has become a bit of a cliche, but it's something that Spurs have lacked for a while. And I think that is kind of a number of reasons as to why I think this signing does make sense. I've always liked Andy Robertson. I've always appreciated his competitive spirit. And I think for the next 18 months or so, I think he is probably good cover for a left-back in Destiny Udogie, who is injury-prone. Obviously, he is back now, and I thought Udogie was brilliant against Dortmund on Tuesday. But having someone reliable in Robertson and also having a natural left footer to help the balance of the team, because as much as I really like Jed Spence, and I think from a defensive point of view, you don't really lose a lot from him playing at left back. Him on the left hand side from an attacking point of view, is not what you want, especially in deeper build up when Spurs are trying to get out. We often kind of get caught in turnover situations where he can't just open his body up and go down the line. It just naturally adds that balance to the team. Jed Spence did play well at left wing the other day, and that is one slight concern that I do also have about this transfer, that Spurs obviously came into the window saying that left wing was a position that we were going to target. It was a priority position. Bear in mind, we've lost Kudus, we've lost Johnson. Kulusevski is still no closer to returning as well. So you'd imagine that a winger we certainly would have had more credible links to a winger this January than we have so far. We've had absolutely none. There's been murmuring of someone like an Akliouche, but again, and there's been talk of Tell leaving on loan in January as well, which is something that I want to come on to as well with the Champions League registration, which is one of the big concerns that I do actually have about this deal, to be honest. But yeah, Robertson from an overlapping kind of point of view is a big plus side to Spence. He's not got the athleticism of Spence to kind of get up and down. Obviously, that's in his peak years he did, but I still think he's going to give you 110% every single week, and I think he will help the balance of the team. Also, when you talk about Jed Spence, I think what it will do is, say if a doggy is injured, it will actually allow Spence to go and play on this right-hand side and actually give some proper rest to Pedro Porro, who has definitely earned that. I know he's been poor, but he's played a hell of a lot of minutes, and we have run Porro, I think, into the ground over the last few years. He played more minutes than anybody under Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. Let me just quickly move this over, actually, because you can't see the full pitch. Sorry about that. He played more minutes than anybody during Ange Postecoglou's tenure at Spurs, and I think, obviously, you kind of seen him pay the price for that this season as well. I'm not defending him. I'm not saying that he's been great this season, because he certainly hasn't, but I think we need to see Spence get given a run of games at left back. I think Robertson, his level this season generally when I've watched him for Liverpool has been better than what we saw last season, and maybe that was because he was running to the ground, didn't have a load of proper actual left back competition that he has got now with Kerkez, and obviously Kerkez has become the A side because of Robertson's age and those kind of things. But Tsimikas was never really, like, he had some decent moments here and there, but he was never really proper pushing on the door to stake a claim that he should be in that team over Robertson or anything like that. So I think there was a case of him, as he gets older, being run into the ground a little bit and probably playing more games than maybe he should at his age last season. So I think there is upside to it as well. We do need characters, we do need leaders in the situation that we're in now, and I do think he will obviously bring that. But one thing this Tottenham team also does need is technical quality, and I think that that's something that we've not prioritised enough of in this January transfer window. And I think if we were to end the window with Gallagher, Robertson and Sousa, then I think that is an incredibly underwhelming window and doesn't show enough ambition from the club to help us get out of the situation that we are in right now. These are, what's the date today? The 23rd of Jan. We've got a massive last week ahead of us in the transfer window to get some other crucial business done to allow this team to become more functional and add more technical quality to this team that is desperately lacking in midfield and also in that front line as well, right? But yeah, again, in isolation, there are bits to like about Andy Robertson for sure. So let's kind of go the other way then and talk about some of the concerns that I have with this deal. Let's go back to the tactics board, because one thing that worries me slightly, and it kind of links to the left wing thing, and maybe I am reaching here, right? But maybe they look at Jed Spence's performance at left wing the other day against Borussia Dortmund. I know it was kind of a 3-4-3, and he was kind of tucking in at left wing back at times, but he did look good there. He took on his man. He definitely had the beating of the fullback. The wing back on that other side. It was one of the best attacking performances I think he's had for Spurs, even though I think there was a lack of end product to kind of attach itself on the end. But Jed Spence for the rest of the season at left wing cannot be a solution. Like that absolutely cannot be a solution. No way. That he's not going to be able to deliver consistent enough performances as a left winger to actually make this team better. Spurs have to, if they want a new left winger in this team, they've got to go and sign one. Or trust Mathys Tel with the minutes. Again, I think this is another thing that then potentially pushes Mathys Tel out of the door as well, because if you look at Tottenham's Champions League squad registration, and I think George Achillia made a good point about this on Twitter. If we go to his post, where are we? Oh, actually, I think I've quoted it just before I started the vid. So let's go to here. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well, by the way, guys. So my main concerns with and shout out to George for this, it was in my head anyway, but this kind of this painted it in a much clearer light. And I think George is always good at this with the Champions League rules. I'm a bit hopeless with some of this stuff sometimes. But he said, my main concerns with this Robertson move has nothing to do with him specifically, really. It's to do with how Champions League registration is now going to impact any other signings that we can make this window. Bearing in mind, you look at the fact that we probably still desperately need that progressive midfielder. I don't think... is that something that can wait to the summer? I'm not 100% sure. If they're going to stick with Thomas Frank, especially with Bergvall now injured as well, because Bergvall came into that team the other day and added much more progression and much more needed positivity and impetus to that midfield that we've been desperately lacking. So he's an option that's obviously now been taken off the table because he's out for 2 to 3 months. So that highlights even more Spurs' need to go out and sign a progressive midfielder in the last few days of the transfer window, and also a winger as well. Champions League states that you can only make a maximum of 3 changes to the league phase squad. So that means for Spurs that Gallagher will probably replace Bentancur because Bentancur is out for 3 months. Robertson will come in and replace Davis. Again, that makes sense. And then the third option, what do we do here? If we sign another player, as I said, I still think we need 2 players in this window. And bearing in mind the optics of this, when you consider the fact that Spurs came out at the start of the window and said that a winger was their priority, that was what was briefed to the media. If we get a winger over the line in the last few days of the window, then he will probably come in. But also, like I said, we are crying out for progression in midfield. I saw someone just tweet quickly before I went on to George's post that if we were talking to Liverpool, should we have gone and got Curtis Jones over Conor Gallagher? I'm a big fan of Curtis Jones. I said that to Jamie Carragher on the overlap yesterday. I think he would have been a better rounded signing than someone like a Conor Gallagher. But Conor Gallagher's done. It is what it is. And obviously he will come in for Bentancur. So, sign a new player. Great, we need some, but we went in this window needing a forward and a deep line playmaker. We can now only get one. Furthermore, if a new signing takes the spot, Tell wants to join Paris FC, especially if Frank is still here. That leaves one less forward for the Premier League that we can choose from as well in terms of the depth. We've brought in another forward, but obviously we've lost depth in the Premier League as well, which is obviously going to be our bread and butter to try and keep our heads above water. Kulusevski, least likely of the options. Yeah, I don't think Kulusevski is going to come back in time to make an impact in this Champions League campaign, to be honest. And then Matisse Tell. Tell stays and can play Champions League and Premier League, but same issue as above, where we can't sign quality players in positions we need because we can't register them in the Champions League. So then, almost by not signing a winger, it's good for Matisse Tell because he gets the minutes that he then, I think, deserves based off the performances, and I don't want to see him go out on loan, but also it means that we can't sign a needle mover left winger in this January to help us in the Champions League. Is the Champions League enough of a priority for that to be a total consideration? I don't know, but we were told that we want to compete on all fronts at the start of the season. I don't know. The best thing Spurs can do then if Robertson is signed is to sign a quality forward, potentially sign Hayden Hackney as a young progressor who would still move regardless of Champions League and loan out Tell. So it does bring into question about the squad planning. Another thing that obviously brings into question the squad planning is obviously the signing of Sousa. Now, I'm not as down on this and how it impacts him as maybe some other people. Obviously, I think Sousa will probably get a taste of England over the course of the next few days or so, settle in, and I think there's a good chance that he maybe will head back out on loan, potentially for the rest of the season, potentially for 18 months. Now, if we sign Andy Robertson on an 18-month deal, and of course, these are all ifs and buts, right? It's Tottenham. It's Tottenham's planning. It's Tottenham's thinking above. So you can't always assume that it's going to be with the highest IQ necessarily. We've made a lot of bad decisions when it comes to our squad planning. But in an ideal world, if we do get this right, then I think Robertson comes in to essentially give a doggy some competition for the next 18 months. The worry with that is obviously Robertson will continue to decline. I don't think Robertson's going to get any better necessarily than he has done. But I think he's a good player to probably have around the squad and can obviously help to rotate with Destiny and Doggy. And allow Sousa to develop, playing regular football at a higher level than what he's been played at in Brazil that will hopefully make him more adept for the Premier League. Maybe goes out in the Premier League loan. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what obviously happens there. But you could also make the argument, I think this is something I saw Kish saying, that rather than going to sign 2 left-backs in one window, that the 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum in Sousa and Robertson, when you look at how clubs who are higher at us in the league but have got themselves into difficult situations this season, i.e. Man City, and now Man City are obviously richer than us, they've got more money than us. Spurs have got more money than we've spent, right? I know we spent a lot of money, but in terms of wages and all that kind of stuff, right? We have got the money in January, as was promised to us by the new owners, the Lewis family kind of coming in and taking over the season, that there will be money there to be spent on the squad to help improve us. And obviously, Vin and I are talking about Premier League proven players, breaking the wage structure, all that kind of thing to help attract the best possible players that we can. Tottenham, if you look at what Man City have done, they needed a winger, they went and signed Semenyo. They needed a centre-back, they went and signed Mark Gay, right? I know January is more of an opportunistic market, but there are a good amount of left-backs out there. I think Nathaniel Brown at Frankfurt, is one of them. If let's kind of get up some now. I actually saw. I think Nathan Clark tweeted about this actually. So let's pull up his tweet in terms of a list of options potentially. But like Hartman off the top of my head as well. There's more at Burnley. To where was his post? Might have been in the replies to this. Yeah, here we go. Malik Diouf at West Ham, rather than going in for Somerville. I mean, that's just... I don't even think that's worth talking about because I'm not sure there's actually much in it necessarily. Adrian Truffert at Bournemouth. I know he's only been at Bournemouth for 6 months, so slightly probably not as realistic. Nathaniel Brown. Dennis Serkin, potentially at Sunderland. Again, questions over whether he's proven enough or not, I suppose. But yeah, or someone like Arthur Tiat, who can play at centre-back and at left-back. Obviously, players like that with versatility that would probably help us too. Take the burden off Van der Ven, who, touchwood, hasn't got injured so far. But Spurs probably could have gone and signed another left-back that would have been able to actually compete with the doggy now, who is a similar age, similar potential, those kind of things, and have those two kind of vying for the spot rather than bringing in Sousa, then loaning him out, and then bringing in Robertson to kind of cover that when Robertson might continue to decline. Whereas it's really... I do understand people's concerns with this. I do. But I think there's some decent... I don't think it's like crawling with... like. I think obviously there's some decent players on this list. Personally, there's some I don't know enough about, but also there's some that I think would come in and improve us. There's some that I don't think... I'd rather sign Robertson than Illing Jr. or someone, for example, right? But there are left backs out there that Spurs could have maybe got that could have come in and just gone, right, we're going to upgrade the squad. Here's someone that's going to compete with the doggy that's starting level right now, and those two are going to battle it out for the spot. Because let's face it, with the doggy's injury record, he needs that. And obviously with Robertson kind of getting older, potentially more injuries, potentially running out of steam, potentially just his brain and all those kind of things, is that the right thing? I also think Robertson is probably better than Ben Davies still. So in the short term, I don't think it's that much of an issue. Maybe Sousa comes back next season. Maybe we don't register like if we're not going to be in Europe next season, for example. Like then if we have Robertson, Sousa, and a doggy at the club from next season onwards, then Robertson obviously doesn't need to be registered in Europe or anything like that. He will be homegrown in the Premier League, I'm pretty sure. So it wouldn't be that much of an issue if we kind of bloat the squad with 3 players in that position there. It gives us actually some decent depth, and then it means Spence can just be the backup for Porro on the right-hand side as well. So, yeah, look, again, like I said, there are concerns that they're going to bring Robertson and use Spence as a left winger. There are concerns about what we do for the Champions League squad, what it means for Matty's Tell, these kind of things. The squad planning is a little bit all over the place. I don't think it's a bad signing in isolation, and I think if Robertson can kind of come in as cover for the next 18 months or so for a doggy and allow Sousa a bit more time to develop if they really believe in him as a talent, then I think there's upside there as well. But Spurs need to still do more in the rest of the window. But obviously this kind of situation with the Champions League squad does complicate that. So it's all a bit of a mess. It's Tottenham Hotspur. I like Andy Robertson. There's a lot to like about him. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to let me know what you think and like the video as well. Andy Robertson, welcome to Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, what Liverpool do?